is next. Trish Hyde came from Australia. She is the CEO for the past year of something called the Australian Packaging Covenant. That's a sustainable packaging initiative that aims to change the culture of business to design more sustainable packaging, increase recycling rates, and reduce packaging litter. So please join me in welcoming Trish Hyde.
Hello, I know it has been a long day, and as many people have promised, I also will be brief. As soon as I find the clicker, here we go. So a little bit about who we are. You have to know a bit about us to understand we are quite an unusual beast. Australian Packaging Covenant. Australia has 24 million people. We're the 6th largest nation. We're the largest island, and we are the smallest, flattest continent. We are a little bit unusual in many ways. Packaging. Well, packaging sustainability has 3 core pieces. You have to look at the economics, the social, and the environmental. You cannot separate them and try and look at one piece by itself. And Doug, I must correct you, we're not going completely container deposit. In fact, one state is holding out because they believe they have different mechanisms that will just be as effective. So essentially, we've got our own little market research think tank going on. And I'll be very happy to be able to tell you about that in years to come when we see the results. We are also a covenant. Fun word that they threw in makes it sound very formal. We are an agreement between industry and governments. So I know there's been a lot of talk about the difference between voluntary schemes and getting into the hardcore regulation. We're actually a midway step. We have regulation in Australia that is called the NEPM, the National Environmental Protection Measures, and every company can be regulated by that mechanism. It's onerous. It's really difficult. Or you can voluntarily join the APC and contribute towards outcomes, environmental and industry outcomes. So we have quite a good relationship with our members. We have a good sticky factor because people want to be part of it and not beholden to a higher regulatory burden, but at the same time, it's not the lowest common denominator. Brand owners are delivering and are part of the journey. So that's what makes us a little different. We are very ambitious. We are small. We're a not-for-profit. We are funded entirely by industry, and we have some very high ambitions. As you can imagine, when you have to negotiate for your licence to operate with every jurisdiction in a country, then you have to actually do some things that they're going to be impressed by. So we have 6 things that we have promised to deliver. Sustainable design, we have to be out there educating. We recently held a think tank for members around sustainable design and have issued a white paper. We have to do more on circular economies, and I'll get into that in a bit of detail. We have to help brand owners reduce their own packaging consumption. It's not just what gets to the consumer. The B2B packaging is significant and often ignored. We are introducing an evidence-based labelling scheme for on-pack. We've talked about that a bit today with other jurisdictions. It's something that we're committed to and brand owners are committed to. We're also building a knowledge centre. One of the things that's come through today has been that what happens in design doesn't necessarily tally with what happens at recycling. People need information. They need access to that. And our big, hairy, audacious goal is that we are tackling takeaway meal containers. That's one of the most often littered plastics that gets into the environment. It's not just one brand owner that has the responsibility. In fact, it's often small SMEs, your mum and dad outlets that have the responsibility of what they purchase. So we're going to help them make better decisions that are fit for purpose for the product, but also better for the environment. A few core concepts before I get into circular economies about plastics and packaging. The first one, and we have this all the time, is plastic good or bad? We're at a plastics engineers conference, so hopefully we have a lot of positivity, but I know that there is also a lot of negativity. So when you look at something like a contact lens, it's a no-brainer. It works. When you think of the alternative to plastic, I don't want to see who here is only wearing natural fibres. Yeah. But then we do know that there's a downside. So you can't just be Pollyanna and think it doesn't exist. And then this is where the real rubber hits the road. This is what consumers see. This is the reality, and this is what is harming the environment. So when it comes to plastic, there are good elements and there are consequences. But let's talk about packaging. I find it interesting because surveys show that between 95 and 97% of consumers think packaging is bad. They don't like it. And you ask them compared to food waste and they still say the packaging is worse. Now, packaging can be about 5% of the total environmental life cycle impact compared to the product. So we've got to put these things into perspective, but it's not all good. You may have seen this example from last year. It's one of my absolute favourites. These are mandarins. Yes, they have been peeled and put into plastic containers. Now, everybody knows you have a thumb for a reason. It goes in the mandarin to peel it. So that is where packaging goes beyond. And the company that did that absolutely got crucified in the media, and it was withdrawn within weeks. But then the humble cucumber. We've all seen this on the shelf. You've probably seen Shrink Wrap a Cucumber, the book. But that cucumber will last 3 times longer than one that isn't wrapped. And think about the energy and resources used to create the cucumber. And if it goes off in 4 days, compared to almost 2 weeks, that is a greater loss. I'm not saying that we need that. This is always the answer. Sometimes it's not. But what brand owners are looking for is how to optimise the packaging. At what point does it do greater in protecting the product and maximising its ability to be, or efficiency of logistics, compared to over-packaging and product waste. So it's a fine balancing point, and that's why design is really important. Because the alternative for that particular package is food waste. The other principle to remember in packaging is this is the best waste hierarchy for designers to be looking at. Of course, you should avoid and minimise, but as you get down, there are materials that you need to think of how will they be disposed. So provided you're operating on that and optimising your resource efficiency, you actually will produce packaging that is, to its best ability, sustainable. Not everything will be recycled. We don't have the end markets, etc. But that's the philosophy for design. So I did say I'd talk about circular economies. Circular economies, they sound fantastic, don't they? You just get a resource and you keep collecting it and using it and collecting it and using it and collecting it and using it, and we'll just always have that value. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen in reality. We wouldn't be sitting here today if it was a reality. There are 3 areas that we have identified as leakage points that actually stop circular economies being circular. Design definitely is one. Recovery is another, and I actually like the point about using the word recycling is different to actually getting the materials from one place to another place so that they can be used in an end market. So they're the three areas that we see in Australia that we need to work on a lot more. So when it comes to design, it is important to think about afterlife. We're in the process of delivering to members a tool that will help them assess not just whether the material should be recyclable, but whether it will be recyclable. The difference being that if there is no end market to buy that, you've just spent a hell of a lot of effort and energy processing something through a MRF that then goes to landfill. That doesn't make sense. Circular economies have to be sustainable, and that means economic, social, and environmental. So afterlife is important, but focusing just on afterlife ignores the cost of getting those initial resources. We have, you look at aluminium. Aluminium's a good example there. That the environmental cost to get it, but its end of life is fantastic. It's probably worthwhile also thinking that the answers that we don't have today, we may have tomorrow. Soft plastics has been one that has bugged or plagued anyone who operates a MRF. Hates soft plastic because it gets in the wheelie things. And recently in Australia, there's been a trial with 4 councils where by simply putting all of the soft plastics into a soft plastic bag, tying it up and putting it in your recycling bin, when it gets to the MRF, it's identifiable. Very simply pulled out at the very first checkpoint because there's a visual checkpoint of what's coming through. So with these incremental insights, and I actually know that that's being supported, a similar project's being supported by Dow in the US. So these things can incrementally change what we thought couldn't be done. Recovery. There are 2 key things here. One is infrastructure and the other is behaviour. Now, I can tell you that the APC has been in existence for 16 years. We have co-funded infrastructure, whether it be recycling facilities at airports, all the way through to MRF upgrades. And there is always money that could go in and in and in. The thing we've learnt, though, is that by focusing on one part, we're not fixing the whole. Behaviour is just as important. We've got research that shows that 23% of households in New South Wales, household rubbish in New South Wales, is actually recyclable. So they're putting things into the landfill that could be recycled and have end markets. Equally, about a third of what goes into recycling should never have been there. For some reason, disposable nappies, some people do think that they are recyclable. It's not a fun job working at a MRF. So we're looking at the infrastructure, yes, identifying the gaps, but the key thing is also the behaviour. Hence why we're introducing an on-pack disposal scheme, just to help you work out which bin. And it's agnostic. It's not about good or bad. It's about making sure you're doing the best that you can for the environment with that choice that you have. End markets is the most difficult because we have the economics that go with it. We've talked about that today, but it is not all doom and gloom. I will say that Australia exports two-thirds of our recycling content. We export that to Asia 3 of the 5 countries that are listed in the top contributors to marine pollution. So that's not a good thing. But I had to get in a picture like that just once. I wanted to share a little snippet from some friends of Doug and mine in Australia, an Australian company, and hopefully the video will work. These guys, I'll let them speak for themselves.
You sit on it, you wear it, you use it, you listen to it, you play with it, you talk on it, you drive it. From paperclips to spaceships, our lives are full of it, and it's called plastic.
Plastic is a remarkable product. It's everywhere, and we keep thinking of new ways to use it. The problem is how we dispose of this plastic once it's reached the end of its useful life. What we do with this unused plastic is key to the future of this planet.
Scientists have now revealed by 2050 there'll be more plastic.
80% of plastic consumed is not recycled.
40% ends up landfill.
Plastics are clogging the water. Emissions are on the increase.
We face the problem of our oceans being full of plastic. The fish are eating the plastic, and we and other animals in the food chain are eating the fish. This is a problem for all of us right now.
The entire team at FOI has come together to work with environmentalists, governments, businesses, communities, and together we have a solution. We have the technology to deal with end-of-life, non-recyclable plastics.
Plastic pellets enter the machine and make their way to the CRM, where pyrolysis takes place. Most plastic comes from crude oil. This process returns the plastic to its original state. The key to pyrolysis is that the plastics are heated to around 400 degrees Celsius in the absence of oxygen. Under these conditions, the plastic molecules break apart, returning them to the smaller hydrocarbon chains they began as. The hydrocarbon is then cooled and refined to produce road-ready diesel and petrol from sites that are environmentally friendly, clean, quiet, and safe.
We are talking about utilising plastics to support activities that would otherwise require fossil fuels. We are supplying fuel that supports our current daily lifestyles. We are not increasing the use of fuel, but we are ensuring that its use does not further exploit our current scarce resources. We have worked hard to ensure that our solution improves the planet's sustainability. Our solution results in reduced landfill, reduced waste plastics, and reduced exploitation of fossil fuels. It also contributes to locally made fuel, cheaper petrol, and increased employment. It is an Australian-made solution to an international problem. Most importantly, our method of production has been independently verified as reducing our carbon footprint. By reducing our carbon footprint today, we're helping to make a better tomorrow.
We have a solution to this problem right now. But even more so, as a company, we're investing heavily into research and development to be true to our company ethos of cleaning up our planet well into the future. Unfortunately, we're at a critical point right now. This isn't about a problem that might happen, it's about a problem that has happened and is continuing to happen. We need to act now.
We have an obligation to future generations to fix this, and we can. Yes, we have the power to change the future. It's our planet, it's our home, and it's beautiful. Please support us in protecting our future. We are not asking for money, we are just asking you to stay informed. Look at our website, like us on Facebook, support our projects by lobbying politicians. You may even want to buy shares in our publicly listed company. That's up to you. Rest assured, whatever you choose, we at FOI will continue to work through practical solutions to today's plastic pollution problems. The next generation is relying on us. There's a lot of cleaning up to do. We're going to get on with it right now.
And no, I don't get paid by them, but it is lovely to see innovation coming to fruition. They actually are building plants in the US and Australia. So road-ready fuel straight from waste plastic. So just to finish, I asked at the beginning of my session, are circular economies actually circular? And the reality is that they're not. They have breakpoints all the way through. And the key is collaboration, essentially. You cannot do it alone. And I don't believe it is the consumers, it's not the industries, and it's not government's responsibility to fix. It's all three combined. So that would be my parting words, is that there's lots of opportunity and there's lots of hope. We're exploring those breakpoints and seeing what can be done and championing those that can actually come to the aid. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Trish.